for coming, and sorry for having a bit of this unexpected, let's say, technical problems, but everything is solved now, which is awesome. So basically, we may start with the with our next session. What is important thing to say that the next session, I hope that you have a good time for lunch and had a little break. It was a good time for us also from organizing part to take a break for a while. And we are continuing with our next session, which is data discussion and monetization. And our panelists will be Tomislav Krizan, who is CEO of Atomic Intelligence, Ana-Marija Petric, who is a principal consultant at Poslovna Inteligencija, and Filip Jekic, who is a lead data scientist from ASW Inženjering. As an introduction to this panel, what we wanted to say that in simple terms, there are two main ways how we can monetize AI. We can do it indirectly by making AI part of our products or services that we offer, or directly by selling AI capabilities to customers who in turn apply to solve, I don't know, some particular problems or build their own AI enhanced offerings. In this inspiring discussion, you will get a chance to hear how development of an AI product looks like, what are the major differences between direct and indirect monetization, and what are the major obstacles of AI going more into production. Like I said, I will not take the spotlight anymore, so I will give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves. So I will start with Ana-Marija, and I would like to, can you tell us more about what your company does in the field of AI and what industries are you covering? You're muted still, Maria. We can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So hi, everyone. Basically, as Alexander already told you, I'm working in Poslovna Inteligencija. I came back from the Netherlands, where I did a lot of data science, AI, and different kinds of interventions in the data world. And in Poslovna Inteligencija, we're mainly focused on basically one of my personal pet peeves, and that's doing artificial intelligence in creation. So we were building a tool, a pipeline that would recognize and extract some of the data in an intelligent way. So trying to build something that would address the privacy concerns. And I've just heard from my colleague that we got a project in that direction. And we also do a lot of sales predictions for some of our clients. And we are currently venturing into the field of marketing, which you heard from Heidi is quite challenging. So we will be trying to develop some of the solutions in that direction.
Okay, thank you very much, Ana-Marija, for this brief introduction. Like I said, instead of presenting ourselves, I think that this will be a perfect introduction round for everyone. So I would also like Tomislav, if you can tell us more about what does Atomic Intelligence do in the field of AI and what industry. I know that you're doing in a lot of industry. Just can you cover what are the, let's say, for you, the most interesting one, maybe?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, thank you for all who joined to watch this panel. And a little bit of background. So Atomic is a company who is mostly focusing on data products, either internally or externally. So this is also why it's really, am I talking? Am I online?
Yeah, you are.
Cool. Oh, it can happen that I'm talking muted. So. And we are building either data products which are for our internal use, or as you already said, like indirect application to the clients across the globe. And we are focusing on different niches. And one of the things which we are doing, it's a similar point, and is a driven tool for data privacy, which does the full anonymization, because the data is something we need in all of our projects. And this is also the reason why we started. And that's our proprietary built tool. But from the other side, we work across multiple different industries across the globe, from the manufacturing, well, even military industries, space industry. So we work with the banking, telcos, all who need a bit of more clever ways how to get a meaning from the data.
What would you say that for you personally, not for the company, but for you personally, what do you think that's most interesting one?
For me, something which we don't do commercially, which I do for myself, and it's music decomposition, so that I can break music into separate instruments, because in my spare time, somewhere in 3 a.m., I do play a guitar, so this helps.
Okay, that sounds nice. That sounds nice. I know that Music Tribe is doing also a lot of stuff with AI and music, so maybe I can.
French is really good here with the Deezer, and French Academy is doing really good approach about music decomposition.
It sounds very interesting, to be honest. Okay, Philip, thank you also for joining us. Philip is, like I said, lead data scientist of ASW Inženjering, which is a company, let's say, traditionally engineering company. So I think that he will also have a very interesting point of view with a company who did a lot, let's say, some kind of transformation, and what the project, AI project or products that you are working on right
now. Thank you, Alexander. As you said, my name is Filip Jekic. I am a lead data scientist at ASW Inženjering. Also, I am a mathematician, so I am a teaching assistant at the University of Belgrade, Faculty of Mathematics. As for DSW, it is a company that has been here a very long time. So we are right now in our 30th year, and we have over 100 clients, and we are a project-oriented company. So we have, for example, our flagship product is the ERP software that over 100 companies in the region use. Regarding with the AI, we did set up 2 goals when we started about 3 years ago, our machine learning laboratory, and they are completely parallel with what you said was the idea of the conference, which I'm glad. And that is, on one hand, to include the AI in our existing products, and on the other hand, to create new products completely based on AI that we can sell to the global market. The main advantage that we have, and one of the reasons that I came to ASW, is the large amount of data that has been gathered using our products during those 30 years. So it is a very fertile ground for development of machine learning. And also there are people here with extensive domain knowledge, which is, as I have noticed, priceless in the development of quality machine learning solutions.
Okay.
Regarding the industries that we, of course.
What I wanted to ask you, can you maybe give us an example, like you started with that, and I would like to let's say rephrase the question, so I can give you, like, let's say a wind in the back. Can you give us an example of what it looks like for development of one AI project or product inside of ASW Inženjering? Did you hear me?
No, I'm sorry. Can you repeat?
Yeah, can you give us an example of what it looks like development of one AI project or product in let's say from terms of ASW Inženjering point of view?
Mm-hmm. Certainly. So when we develop AI products, we have noticed over the years that the best practice is to follow the standards that are already established for the software engineering projects. So when we start an AI product, we develop it just as we would any other software engineering. So on the first step, domain experts talk with the clients and create a functional specification, which outlines precisely what the client actually wants from our solution. Then our solution architects decompose the solution, create the product documents. There we follow the IEEE standards, which have proven to be very valuable for that. And finally, after those preparatory phases are completed, then the product is developed. On the one hand, the software engineers create the infrastructure needed for the model to function and to give results. And on the other, the data scientists create the model. As a most interesting fact that we have noticed, and it has been confirmed by the, for example, Western companies developing AI, the machine learning part is a very small part in the whole software system, even in those systems that are completely focused on the AI use case. So our main goal is to create a reliable and reliable product which can continually give precise and quality results. So that would be in the couple of sentences.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. I think that maybe Tomislav, you can maybe join on this same question. I know that one of the products that Atomic Intelligence has produced in the field of AI, it's called AI Panda, which is acronym for Atomic Intelligence, Privacy and Data, which is a really nice play of words. So maybe if you can explain to us what is AI Panda in short, and how did it look like a development of AI Panda?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a bit of a long story. So this will be till the end of the conference. So.
We shall see.
Yeah. No, essentially AI Panda, we as a company are the data-driven company. And for every project, we needed the data. And mostly we have some obstacles to get the data when we also work with the clients. And this led also to build this kind of solution, which is our Panda, to provide us ability that we can get an access to real productional data, which will be completely de-anonymized or de-identified and even scaled so that we can work on the data and provide some results. And that started as a project maybe a few years ago, based on some even papers we did for some of the conferences, not just conferences, but also for research institutes. And based on that, we started to scale it. And we started with the core. So that is a full anonymization engine. And then after that, we started with AI on top of it. AI is really, which is providing us ability to connect different layer of the data and do the seamless de-anonymization or de-identification of the data across different channels. So from one side, if it's in a free text, we'll find all necessary and sensitive information, immediately replace it with repeatable concept of the same information, like a credit card. Whenever you find a credit card, it will be replaced with same type of the credit card across either news articles or in a database or in REST API or even it's for now just a limited use. It's not fully out through the picture of picture of your document or your credit card. It will automatically replace it on itself. So that is one part of the connectivity. AI here in concept of Panda itself is learning part, which constantly learns how the data are going through it to identify where new patterns of sensitive information appears so that it can apply core functionality or de-anonymization. Even if you don't know where the sensitive data resides in your data set, database, REST, or whatever, it will find it. Even on a course of usage of the tool, it will find it and remember and start applying appropriate de-anonymization practices based on your user context. So that's also what is always important. If you as a person have ability to see real data, you can see it. If you don't have ability, you'll get same look and feel without physically modifying anything in the background and without physically modifying any application. You just come in front of your UI and your backend of application to do this in the street.
Okay, that sounds interesting. What is also like, and I think that this is going like it has a storyline with what we are saying now. Ana-Marija, sorry for Mari. I know that you don't like when somebody calls you Ana-Marija. I did it already 4 times, so
yes.
close that for me. But the thing is, you have a very interesting background because you finished social sciences on Oxford. And I will give you a possibility to briefly introduce how did you end up to the AI evolve. But basically, you come back from Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken, and basically you get let's say not all things approved in front, but you get a lot of let's say you have a lot of trust in your company to do AI project, to start running some AI projects. So basically, maybe you can bring us closer. How does it look development of a project that is a bit more, let's say, research phase or preparing for the sales phase regarding to the project who are already directly going into selling phase. So maybe if you can just share us your side of story regarding that, and to maybe have concrete example of the project, what are you doing right now, if that's okay?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, that's correct. I am, unlike most of my colleagues in artificial intelligence, actually not from a technical background. Some of the people who have seen me on conferences are aware of this fact. I'm a linguist, which explains why my interest is primarily in language and why I want to drive a little bit of a more intelligent approach to Croatian language and the regional languages, which are underrepresented in the artificial intelligence community at the moment. Explainable, maybe desirable, I don't know. But basically, my kind of like a switch towards the artificial intelligence world was actually ties in very nicely to our keynote, because what I did in Oxford is basically studied the brain as part of my psycholinguistics and neurolinguistics courses. So what we did, we researched how people think and how people actually automatically predict certain words. I will give you a small example. If I say some kind of an adjective in Croatian, which is a gendered language, you will expect that there is a female noun behind it, and you will act really shocked if there is not. So, and we tried to model that. First, we did what all the humanities students do. We used R. It was abysmal. So because R is not inherently built to handle this. At least it wasn't in 2010. So, or 12. So what I did is basically we switched to Python and we started trying to model it in Python. It was horribly unsuccessful, as you will see when you start doing artificial intelligence. A lot of your projects will be horribly unsuccessful, but that should just motivate you to start further. And what we do in Poslovna basically is we organize the hub, which is called the Data Science AI Hub, which handles not only the commercial activities where we can sell some of our solutions and products, but also motivates our colleagues who might be doing DVH or the data warehousing or data management to kind of get interested in this area as well. So what we did is we combined the strengths of our colleagues who did data engineering. We enhanced it and we built a whole pipeline which handles basically the web scraping of Croatian and English articles and does a full-fledged analysis with summarization, with ratings, sentiment ratings, but also there is a component which we actually were developing and are developing, which is just trying to identify a specific named entities to be able to kind of recognize the personal data, both in Europe, but also according to all of the other privacy regulations. And what we do is we just have fun with it and we try to build it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's all in good fun. So yeah.
Okay, that sounds interesting. And basically, I wanted to have this, like, instead of introduction round, it was a bit, let's say, a bit maybe longer than expected introduction round, but I wanted just to bring to the attendees so that you can see how many different ways of AI project can have. Basically, this is why we did this part, because I wanted to quickly switch while we are still on the verge of the AI projects on how to monetize AI. And basically, in simple terms, like we said, there are two ways: indirect monetization, indirect monetization. And basically, there is also a third way that Ana-Marija will ask you that question. But I would first like to ask Tomislav, can you give us an example of AI as a service product, maybe with your dynamic deal scoring? And second, let's say, sub-question for that is, can you bring us closer? How does the monetization process look like? This kind of direct monetization, some giveaways if you can give to the public. I know that you're very experienced, that you don't need to sell tricks. You have full bags of that, but I think that people can learn a lot of you from you about that part. That I think one of the strongest part, maybe beside AI, knowing AI. Okay, Tomislav, can we hear you?
Hello?
Yeah, Tomislav?
Hey, am I back? No, something froze. It was like, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, something just froze. So, and it's a fresh installation, so I went with a fresh laptop just in case. Okay, so let's start how those kind of indirect project goes. Mostly due either word of mouth, which is really important in our line of business, people start connecting and asking how you can help them to solve some type of the issue. And during the course of assessment, what is really a background of some issue, you may identify potential of new approaches, how you can help them and potentially fix multiple stuffs with a single blow. Like even like in the children's stories, seven I don't know, flies with a single blow, etc. And one of our approaches, which we went essentially, was this dynamic bill scoring, which helped the user to create a price in time when they are doing the quoting, based on previous behavior of the customer, but also based on current trends on the market, not just on the market, because this was initially done for one of the manufacturing industry, covering multiple different fields of production, from, like we like to say, from the needle to the spaceships. So they are doing quite everything, and they are specialized in almost all of those segments. And they have manufacturing location across the globe, on every continent, at least 10 of them. And based on that, we started to look at what would be the best course of action to provide the price when they do the quoting. What are the necessary information which we need to pick up? Are those based on materials they will use, the quantity batches which need to be produced? Who is your customer? How did it behave? Are you selling directly to the customer or to some OEM who will then later on implement it for a customer, etc., etc.? And based on all of it, we provided a simple solution which directly integrates into their Salesforce application. And like Maria already said, Ana-Marija already said, she used R previously, and we essentially deployed everything as an R service, which is REST API call to do the ML scoring in the background and provide them with the necessary information that they are able to select appropriate price during the quoting, which elevates gross margin. And this was about 3 months work of the project. Majority of the work, or 80% of all the money on that project, was spent on traveling across the globe to talk with all the manufacturing location, all the people involved, and gather all the information. And the full implementation took about 3 months. After those 3 months, the full project was paid off in the 3 months as well. So by just elevating gross margin, we paid off the full project in the 3 months. So from 0 to 6 months, it was a started project and fully refunded. And after that, and that was finished last year in June. From June onwards, everything is on a revenue share basis, how much we can uplift the gross margins. We are splitting the difference. So this fuels our internal development. So there are a few colleagues who are also here watching this. And this is essentially type of activity how we do in our company. We do this kind of consulting and indirect implementation that we can fuel our internal development to do something, to try and fail if there is a need, like Ana-Marija already said. It is fun to try something. If it succeeds, it will succeed. If not, next time.
Okay, basically, like if just correct me, say if you agree with me. First thing first is that you need to have some background in your job, so people can have a, let's say, some kind of, let's say, a proof evidence, and to believe that you can deliver what you have promised. That's very important part. First one. Correct. Second one is do investigation fully, to be very the preparing part of the project should be maybe even longer than let's say product. So you can see what are all of the necessary information, and maybe even more than necessary information, so you can see what is the scope of the project to gain domain knowledge. And the third one is to know how to let's say calculate how to build the business model around it so it can pay off, like to see what is realistic and what is not realistic, if I understand correctly, perhaps.
Yeah, you did. And essentially in a majority of those projects, 80 to 90% of the time you will deal with the data before you start modeling something. We recently closed one of the student competitions here in Croatia. Ana-Marija was also a member of the jury there. We did one of the predictive maintenance cases, where majority of the time for the students was really on the data prep and analyzing the data to see what will data show you. And the data was relatively simple. You had 8 different attributes, but those 8 different attributes complicated a lot of lives across multiple different, not just students, but also people with the experience. So You will tackle the data to find something before you can even continue working. Sometimes you will not have a domain expertise, and you will need to work with them to gain that kind of knowledge. But from the other side, all of us here have some already background across multiple industries, which helps us to speed up that type of engagement. This is also why we try to work with younger generations, like already on high schools and the students later on, just to push them into the right direction when they come to the, let's say, working age, that they are already able to help you provide or develop something, let's call it like that.
Yeah, okay, I understand. So basically, like, I think that also the giveaway that we need to understand that if you want to build something based on AI, you need to know your data. If you don't need to know your data, basically you will just lower your chances to succeed. Basically, you need to know how it operates. And basically,
and anybody can use AutoML. Does not mean that it will be okay, but yeah.
Yeah, basically, and I think that this is a perfect, let's say, this, you said education is important part, and I think that this is a perfect time to ask Ana-Marija, because when we talk about in preparation, she said one interesting thing, how we also can monetize AI, and basically that is not something, let's say, by the book, like somebody said, but also providing, and Ana-Marija, this is a question for you, how do you see possibility that you, let's say, outsource educational capabilities of your data science and AI team to the ones that need, like in the terms not only of support but also education? Do you see that that's also a possibility that when you build a strong AI team, that can be also something that can monetize inside of the company, and like Tomislav said, it can fuel the further development in some other fields?
So I absolutely agree with Tomislav, and we've met several times during the Lumen competition in data science. I believe that providing education maybe not be an immediate financial gain for you, but having experienced people who have worked in the industry. For me, for example, it was finance, and I worked with senior AI experts there, and I learned a lot. And then we could monetize it now in my own company where I'm working now by getting some of the projects. So I feel like monetization of artificial intelligence is not just about the products, but it's also about like restructuring how you think about your company, educating your own people so that they can educate your client. Because if the client is not aware of what is possible, and if you cannot educate it and comprehensively explain to them what are the benefits, what are the risks, what's going on, and why can this actually help them, you are running a risk of having a failure or having something not be successful, and having like sort of a natural response from people is just to close the project down and be like, okay, I don't want to handle that. So you need to be like really open to educating even the seniors. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm a senior or a principal consultant, which I am in my company at the moment. You just always want to like learn from other people. And if you want to, like, we do a lot of meetups internally. Well, they've been halted because of the corona situation, but we do meetups where we cover all of the ranges of the topics that we do actually. So I learn a little bit about some of the tools that other people are doing, and people are learning about what I do and what are the risks and what are the advantages of doing my work. And we obviously want to spread it around, and we want our clients to also be informed.
Okay, and how does, if you can talk about, of course, how does this process of, let's say, in terms of selling of education, is there something specific, like, because I know that you're also working as a principal consultant on selling it at nothing, if not maybe AI, but data science for sure, pure products. Like, what is the same thing and what is the different thing between selling an education part? Like, if you can just share like one or two food for thoughts for the attendees.
So basically, when you're selling a product, you can demo it. You can like show people what it does and how it functions, and you can like sort of like measure it. But when you're doing an educational trajectory, when you're trying to like be the educator in this field, it's a little bit more tricky. There are no hard benchmarks that you have to achieve. You just have to like engage with the younger population, go out and try to like sell this education as something that is beneficial, not just from a pure, okay, now I'm a data scientist or now I am an artificial intelligence engineer, but also just like to learn what Tomislav said, 80% of our job is data. Models are trivial in comparison. I know some people will react like, how is a model trivial? But it's actually really trivial in comparison to how much work you have to do. So you have to like sell this idea that you do need to like be educated about what you have and how to use it. So it is a challenge because people don't realize how to measure it, and why should you like, why should I do this? Like it works perfectly fine as it is. So
basically,
it is a
you
challenge.
also said that sometimes also for AI, we can say how to measure it. Sometimes there is a lot to do. But I think
it's a black box.
Yeah, some of it, yeah, definitely. So
I think this is a perfect maybe what we can forward to the Philip question, like which is can be related to this one. And I would like to ask you, Philip, can you give us an example of selling AI capabilities to customers from your point of view? And do you think that is easier to monetize AI directly or indirectly? And what is the main difference between those two in your, of course, in your experience?
Of course. At ASW, luckily we have plenty of examples of both ways. So, for example, the indirect monetization. For that, I would mention the project that we have just completed, the supply assistant, the supply management assistant. So we use the AI there to help our clients supply their stores with appropriate amount of goods. And that model has been integrated closely with our software used in the stores, from which our customers put orders towards their suppliers. So that is the example of the embedding of the machine learning in our product. And regarding monetization, that has been charged the way the classical software products are charged. So there is an upfront fee, and then there is the maintenance fee, for example, yearly. On the other hand, we have also deployed as I would say, pure machine learning solutions. For example, one of our clients in Ireland, which sells subscription-based products online. So their problem was that their customers, some of their customers, for example, 5% of them, would ask for chargeback after a couple of months of using the service. So they wanted to detect which customers are risky for that, because they get a lot of penalties when customers ask for chargebacks. The chargebacks are the transactions for which the customers say were not authorized by them. And so we have created for them a model that predicts the risk of a customer asking of a chargeback based only on the behavior of the customer during the trial period. As clients correctly suspected, the machine learning has been very efficient at that, reaching even a 90% accuracy. And based on that, they have more than halved their amount of chargebacks received since they started using our product. And regarding monetization, it is a software as a service product, as some of my colleague panelists have already mentioned. It in their use cases, it is a REST web service, and they are paying us for each customer checked. So continually, even now as we speak, send tens and hundreds of requests to check their transactions, the trial periods of their customers, and our model via the web service returns to them the risk, the probability that they will make a chargeback. And as I recall, you mentioned the difference between the two ways. Yeah. Well, certainly the classical way of monetization of software, even regarding of AI, gives more certainty and stability to the companies that develop it. But I personally prefer the software as a service method, because on one hand, it forces the company providing the solution to always be at their best and always improve and deliver the solution, because the customer can always, if they are not satisfied, they can always say, okay, we don't have any long-term contracts, we can stop the cooperation. So on that hand, there is that. And on the other hand, the scalability of the software as a service model has proven very beneficial for us in this regard. So as our client grows and
I think, Philip, can you hear me?
It's not me this time.
I believe he's disconnected.
Yeah. Okay.
I can continue on his.
Just to see. Sorry for this. We have a technical issue. Philip, can you hear us? Okay, we will continue forward with, I think that Philip will rejoin us. It's something we have like issue right now, the first time for today. What I wanted to ask you, like, Ana-Marija, I would like to start with you because the first part is monetization is okay, is to find a customer. But after that, we need to think about how we may show results. What's the amount of money that their product service may bring to the customers as well. How to keep a good relationship to the customers. So basically, my question for you: what do you think is it easier to sell a product service to the new customer or maintain a relationship with already existing one? And may I ask you to give us perspective on how the process of maintaining the relationship with the customers looks like, because I know that you're very good at that.
So basically, I think it depends on your relationship with your current customer and the type of a company that it is. So a lot of the conservative industries will push back. Industries that do have a lot of concerns, such as the banking or insurance, where I worked in, they are slowly getting more and more open towards using automated processes, artificial intelligence processes. But depending on the client, I feel like if the client is progressive and you have a good relationship with them, it's always easier to sell software or even artificial intelligence to this kind of a client. But what they need to understand, and this is a very important point, is that unlike a lot of products, selling an artificial intelligence solution does build a different kind of relationship, because obviously I saw that Philip responded to someone in the chat. Is basically the models that we build will get stale over time. They will start functioning poorly, and the client needs to be aware of that. They need to be aware of the ingestion of new data. Also involves retraining the model and modifying some of the, if you're building a neural network, maybe the neural network that you build at the start and the neural network that you will have at the end of the 2-year process will not be the same. So this is very important to be upfront and honest and explain to people that this is something that is not just like there and it stays there for the rest of its functionality. It does require them to have a certain different degree of commitment, that they are aware of the sort of like a limited lifespan of these models. And once they are aware of that, then if you're open and honest and you make your client aware of it, then this becomes also something that fosters even better relationship in the future, because you can build upon this trust. Unlike if you said like, oh yeah, this is great, this will always work amazingly, and that's it. If you go with that kind of an approach, then the client will probably have a bit of a problem with you and your product. So
and basically, like in terms of let's say maintaining the relationship, I think that the easiest way is when you can show somebody how much money did you save or how much money he earned. Let's say using your product or your indirect as your service as an AI.
Yeah, if I may add, for me, I was doing a project in the Netherlands where the employee was the golden standard. We were doing some insurance handling, and what happened is that we could not show them how much money they made because the amount of claims stayed the same. But what it meant is that the man force actually reshuffled in a smarter way. So that was the gain, because their people were handling the claims that they needed to be handling instead of trivial things all day. Yeah. So there are different ways to kind of like assess how successful something is.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, Tomislav, can you bring us perspective? Because I think that all the time we are speaking about monetization, but very rarely people can say what amount of money is about can be saved, can be made a profit from the data science or AI. We are talking about AI. So basically, I can say from my point that I know that for my company, I saved in 2 years more than $30 million, for example. So it can be a very large amount of money, to be honest. So basically, I would like to ask you to maybe bring us perspective of what in your project. And I think that when I was thinking that there was something called AI-driven revenue planning forecast, which come across my mind, which was very interesting thing. How much money can be saved by using AI? And after that, I have one interesting, let's say, trouble question for you regarding that.
Okay, cool. First of all, sometimes you save the money, sometimes you find new revenue streams for the customer so that they can gain. So those are two types of monetization when you do those type of the projects. If you are working on the optimizational side, so basically on a saving, I'm unmuted, just checking. So if you're working on the optimizational side where you would like to help clients save on the current processes, you need to find how you can implement, not just model, because it's really just a model which is AI driven. Sometimes it has an expert system in the background after you do the modeling, because some of the things are not done by model itself. It needs to have a classical static, let's say, statical type of calculations, which goes and together with some legal laws, etc., which essentially are doing for the specific industry, doing some kind of regulatory compliances. And this will be for our demand, well, not demand, for this AI-driven forecasting tool. One of them, essentially an output, is going through the expert system. But I'll keep the case on this dynamic deal scoring as a first option. So we are talking here about multi-billion company in revenue per year. And every even 1% uplift on the margin, we are talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of millions USDs of the revenue. So all of the those small bits are helping to gain and influence. And at the same time, you can see which are poorly performing if somebody is not taking advice, because our tool is not enforcing the prices. It's suggesting the price to elevate everything. Always the sales rep will know what is his current relationship with the customer and what they committed even before they started to quote. Sometimes you can't apply the suggested price, but you need to go either lower or higher depending on what you have in your relationship. This is also to the point, how do you maintain your relationship with existing clients? Because that is the important part. There are already like net promoter scores and similar type of activities which are in place for different industries for the last 2-3 decades, which always tells you that it's much easier and cheaper to keep the existing customer and start growing new product and services with existing customer than finding new one. Luckily, depending on what you are working for, if you work in this type of area, word of mouth is really important. And you, even if somebody does not know your company, they will know specific people who are doing something and they will be contacted if they need to fix the problem. So that helps with the project itself, how they foster them, etc., etc. But from the other side, saving the money or gaining new money, if you are talking from the perspective of our AI-driven forecasting tool, we found out that this was done for US banks and it deploys on multiple banking industries. And it's a combination of AI plus expert system, which comes to the action when you determine that somebody will become irregular payment or start with delinquent payments, etc., which means that at some point you will lose money on him. If you identify this in front quite enough, you can mitigate those type of the risks. Because if you go into full delinquency and you stop paying, then the regulatory laws come into action. And you can't model through AI those regulatory laws, how it will be provided, like chargeback, etc., etc. One of the cases, US is really good example here. If you declare that you can't pay anymore and you go into your bankruptcy, each state has different regulatory purpose, how, not just regulatory purpose, but also methodology, how you calculate the remaining interest and everything else to start, let's say, closing those type of the accounts. It's not same everywhere. Luckily, some of them can be grouped, but from the 50 states, you have maybe 25 different combinations how it should be calculated. So No AI can detect this, but with AI, you can depend the survivalship of those contracts when that loan will default, so that you start calculating appropriate mitigation risks. So for this client, what we found out that even on a point when they are when they are assessing, will they do the loan or will they give the loan to the specific customer, we had ability to predict within 95% of precision, will that client bankrupt in the course of loan period. So that also came as one of their risk scoring attribute that they are using now for measuring, do they really want to give this loan to the customer or not? So again, some parts of the US is always different than Europe, because there you can sell bad loans to somebody else. There is always somebody who will buy it and make money on top of it. It depends. So if you find appropriate time when to sell it, you will always earn, even if you have a delinquent pay. And this is what we are trying to do.
And I want to ask you, and I think that with this credit scoring and probability that something happens, that was like the tricky question from my side. I would like to, if you can give me, let's say in one sentence, your thought about that. Well, what is the data science and AI being self-prophetic in terms that, meaning that if we use some information given by AI, it will have a trend to be fulfilled because we believe that it will be fulfilled, and we bring much more of us into that.
Yeah, it is definitely biased based on the data. It's always, all the systems which are based on the data are always biased. So we try to build the system which are recommending next actions based on some behavior and trajectories, etc., not enforcing them. And based on that, you will decide, do you want to take the course of the action, what is recommended for you, with clear path, what needs to be done, or do you want to do something like what you would like to do? And this forecasting tool was really a good example, because in 2018, when we deployed it for one of the banks, Trump started those trade wars with China. And we had forecasting applications coming from each of their sales teams for all of those loans across different channels, how they are selling. And looking into their trajectories, we saw different numbers, what they expect in the future. And what we got from our system, what was much more precise, because it took much more detailed data and find the patterns which humankind can't see really across multiple different features. And for some of the months where they, well, not for some, for every month which we forecasted in the future, and it was 18-month forecast of the new loans, new delinquency behavior, new revenue streams, etc., we were approximately 1 to 2% of what really happened when we started to get actual values. And their sales team was, in some cases, well, I wouldn't say 200%, because they are so off the target that it was not even close. Yeah. So let me give you example. I'll just try to round it to some numbers. So for one of the products they are selling on a monthly basis, it's a short type of the loans, and specific for some changing of the windows on the house, renovation of the house, and just the windows. That type of the product is about $10 million for them monthly. We had an error about $120. Okay. Their sales rep estimated between 40,000 and 180,000. So that they had a really huge margin of error on. And it was not one of them, it was more. And it showed some pattern when the trade war started with the China, because majority of stuff is imported from the China, which you are buying to either put on your roof or etc. Those prices started to go up, and we were starting to predict earlier that trend will go down and that they will have lower margins, etc., before their sales rep even caught the wind of it.
Yeah, basically, I can just imagine what was the results of that. So, but basically, I would like just to go to with Filip, and to ask him like a question, just to bring also more dynamic, is basically on what Ana-Marija and Tomislav were saying. What is your thought about why it's so hard to show the results of an AI product, and what do you think that are the main issues, Filip, when presenting the results achieved by AI? that you run across when doing a business or presentation to your partners, perhaps?
Of course, thank you. So I will give an example. For that, about 2 years ago, we were doing a project for one of the largest retailers in the region, and our models, our system gave very satisfactory results, much more than they asked for. Certainly not as precise as you mentioned, Tomislav, but it was very good, very usable. And we were very satisfied as our machine learning team, as our laboratory. We were very satisfied with the results, but our director of the company wasn't satisfied because we lacked a way to show those results to the clients. We knew these results because we looked at the data 24 hours for half a year each day, so we knew exactly what was happening, but our director didn't see it. So we had 3 very intensive months of work, probably some of the most intensive in my career. Of course, it is not yet very long, but okay, it certainly says something. Where we worked on the presentation of those results, concretely on the dashboards that can enable the client to interactively analyze the results and see what is actually happening. So the first difficult part was defining KPIs that were used to track the process with the client and the improvements of our model. The main trouble was because the client was regional, that there were certainly not a lot of KPIs already in place. So the definition and the creation of those KPIs was very, very hard. And after that, even the presentation of the results, the structure of the dashboard was a challenge. There we were helped by the Tableau studies. The Tableau, the company that provides the dashboard software, where they tracked on their conferences how the users of the dashboards use those dashboards, where their eyes go when they look at the dashboards, what they look at first, what they look at the most. And based on that, we created the structure of the dashboard that has finally been proven to be satisfactory. When we held the presentation at our clients, and we already knew that it would be a difficult one because the owner of the company he's very confident in their work, and of course he knows his business even better than anyone, I think, in his company. So it was a kind of a test for us. And when we finished, he just said that right now, when he saw the actual performance of the process in his company, he felt that without our AI tool for tracking and improving it, he felt that he was standing on top of his largest building and just throwing the money out in the air. So that was all he said, but afterwards we had full support to continue and to improve, and I'm glad for that. But certainly the presentation part is very difficult. As I mentioned, the KPIs are very important to be defined correctly and to reflect the true state of the business. On the other hand, of course, many challenges come also from the large amount of individual predictions. For example, if we use the use case that Tomislav mentioned. So, for example, for our client here, we had millions of individual predictions for each day, for each week, and showing them and analyzing them is very hard. Basically, the amount of data is huge, and you have to you can't look at each single example and see the performance, but you have to find some way to detect the main troublemakers and to improve on them.
Okay, thank you. Ana-Marija, I would like to ask you one question, and that is from the public, and I think that maybe you can, because I think that from all of us, you have like maybe the most diverse background. So do you think there is any industry areas where you think AI products could never be used, or maybe it is not that possible to monetize it that easily?
Well, first of all, thank you, Nicola, for an excellent question. I think it depends on how you view it. Like I tend to always go with the approach that artificial intelligence as is now, like should not be used to make certain life and death decisions, because it's not able to do that. But what I think it can be used for is just to enable the smart employees of your company, people who have the knowledge, the know-how to do actually the smart things and not do the stupid things every day. So I think in every industry you could apply it, but it could not be applied in every industry in the same way. So obviously, if we are talking about some low impact industries, obviously you can replace a lot of the manual copying, pasting, etc., with some kind of an automated, somewhat intelligent system. But I don't know that there is an industry where I would be outright, yeah, that there's no way that AI will ever be used in it. I cannot imagine it, because I feel like it's only going to get better. So as it gets better and we get better, then it will just kind of like, you can do art with artificial intelligence. It made a movie, you know, like it's already doing so much. So I don't know, maybe some of my fellow panelists have a different opinion. I can see Tomislav is laughing, so now Tomislav is gonna tell me, like, and we'll have a fight after the panel. But
no. I would just say that art is really good example where AI will never be good.
That's true.
It will be good in replicating what already happened and applying the same type of it. But at this stage, and maybe next 30 years or even longer, AI will not be able to, let's say, invent completely new wave in art, like Rembrandt did for a painting, like Michelangelo did it, like Mozart and Bach did it for the music. So they will not be able to invent new way of how to do art, whatever we call art, because that's also subjective term. But still, all the models are based on a previous observation, and based on that, it can create it. And I showed on one of the, it wasn't panel, but when I started to play with the music and AI, I showed that you can play, and it will take your notes, and you can train whatever model to behave like a Bach, like to behave like a good, like a Slash as a guitar player or whoever, and your notes can be played by those artists, and it will definitely have different look and feel. It's the same note, but it's different approach of how they put their melody, how they put their feeling into it, and this is what you can achieve. But it is trained on what was previously. They will not invent new ways how to do, or new ways of how to do the painting or whatever. So I would say that they will suck there. They will suck big time, but still, it will give us opportunity to do something.
Okay, Philip, I would like to ask you, but just shortly, because we don't have that much time. We have 3 more minutes, and I want to ask Tomislav also one last question. Can you give us 2 or 3 maybe lessons learned, or let's say give away what you learned, how to deliver a successful AI product, like 3 like very short giveaways, like to our attendees?
Of course. Well, 2. I would say 2 very short, of course. The first one is get excellent domain experts. That is very important. And the second would be do quality software engineering. So create a product that is reliable and that can be tracked and controlled during the time.
Okay, this is like this is very complete, very good. I think. Thank you for that, Tomislav. Also, I want to ask you shortly also to give us your perspective. Why do you think? What is the main reason for the low percentage of AI projects going into production, and what do you think are maybe the 2 or 3 major obstacles of AI going more into production?
So yeah, I will first say that with a counter argument, why so a low percentage of any product going into production or any project? Because every time it's mostly on sponsorship, and are you trying to fix some problem, and are you succeeding on fixing the problem? Or
okay,
yeah, if you are able with AI, if you are able to help the client, those projects will succeed. If you are not able, definitely it will fail. Nobody wants to have something in their environment which is essentially black box, which will stand on some shelf and that's it, you paid it heavily. This is also the reason why we as a company are doing on a type of the basis. Let's first try with data to see if something is possible. Then if it's possible, we'll start sharing the money, because then it opens much more approaches, and then you get a better sponsorship. Always get the better sponsorship with that type of approach, because at that point they become your driving force that this project will succeed. They will bring you knowledge, they will bring you the data and everything, so that both of you can succeed together. Otherwise, and you define those projects to be short, that you can fail fast if they are not working. Yes, many times you will fail fast because they don't have the data. I'll give you one example. We had a potential project with one of the company in the US who is specialized in posture. How you are sitting behind the desk, and they are doing this for the last 30 years across mostly IT and related industries, where you sit a lot during your work time to see, are you sitting correctly, are your mouse on a proper height, where is your monitor, where is your keyboard, etc., etc. What potentially can lead to different either arthritis or different joint pains or whatever. And there is really good studies which shows you what can be done and what can't be done. And we went together to assessment what we need to collect to get really AI doing enough prediction in advance. And based on how they are currently doing investigation, and mostly the most important part is what they do in person, where they observe everything. This is something which is not collected at the moment, and you can't model it. So we said, this project will fail immediately if you don't start collecting information like this, and this. And they started to record those. And they started to collect those for maybe a year before we went to do something. And it's similar with the approach which we had for a student competition recently. Ana-Marija was, again, I need to say, present there. That project took maybe two and a half years, but real work was done in the last 4 months. About 18 to 20 months of the project was trying to find what sensors make sense on those robotic forklifts, which will provide enough information that you can do either predictive maintenance or whatever. So a lot of pre-preparation. So we could start maybe the project 2 years ago, but it would fail immediately because we didn't have enough information. So those are always like battles. Do you have enough to do something?
Yeah, basically, I would just like for the end of this panel, that was like also very interesting for my side at least. Basically, the giveaways, like what I heard about you, just to summarize it in one sentence. Basically, the most important part regarding the developing successful AI project is preparation part, to understand the data and to let's say leverage the main knowledge. Without that, the possibility is very low for you to succeed. It doesn't mean that some of your project will not succeed. That's not true. All the time, the exception are the making the rules. But that is the first thing. The second thing is to try to build a full product using like a combination with AI and software engineering. And the third but not the least is also that it's much easier to focus when we are speaking monetization, is when you build your name, is to maintain the partnership with the current partners, established partners, even if it means to share risk and to have a long-term project that can get into monetization after 1 or 2 years, and to very fastly return everything that was done. But basically, that when we are speaking about AI project, that we need to develop short-term projects that can be long-term. That's the best way, maybe the best approach to think short-term what we can build, so with the long-term can pay off the investment that we provide.
I will change your order. I would put on as a 0. Essentially, the first most important part are the people. So if you have a team who can do something, then you'll definitely be able to deliver it. So that is the most important part. So without the people, the company or whatever, it's just nothing. So that will be your starting point, and then you can start.
And also, if I can add, that is one of the important things that we tend to remember, is that you can have all the right math and all the right data, but be solving a completely wrong problem.
Correct.
So this is really important, is that you know what your problem is and what are you actually solving, because no model, no data will ever help you if you don't solve the
if you
correct
miss
problem.
the target.
Okay,
Yeah.
basically, thank you all for, because we are already like a bit ahead of schedule, but thank you all for accepting our call to be participants and panelists in this data discussion. It was very nice to hear you and to get some perspective and very practical knowledge about what is the AI monetization, how we can succeed in that. For all of attendees, thank you all for coming. We are now starting the next session. We start in 2:30 in 6 minutes. So basically, you can just jump on the second one. For the question that we didn't answer, I will just send to the panelists, and in the follow-up, I will try to do our best to get the answer, because there's two good questions. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.